everyone, it's Bob McCraney with the Flee Red States Project, brought to you by Texas Pride Realty, brokered by Home Smart Stars. Today we have Paul. Now, Paul is somebody we have helped in the past, and I just wanted to have Paul on to give us an update about how they're doing. Paul, take it away.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you for having me. It has actually been like going to a whole nother world since we moved. Living in a red state was constantly watching over your shoulder, making sure certain conversations aren't overheard, because you just never know who is listening. And moving to a blue state, definitely there was a moment where we were just out shopping and meant something mentioned queer, and we immediately like had that knee-jerk reaction of who's listening, and we just kind of like, wait, we don't have to do that. It was a wonderful relief to know that you could speak openly and no one the majority of people aren't going to turn and look at you and go, oh god, queer. But no, it's like, oh me too. So it's been it's just a whole different world up here from where we were. Especially when it comes down to even local politics and the protections that queer people have. They are definitely looked out for more. The community, I would say it feels like almost it's more intense in some ways because they're more, I mean, don't get me wrong, in red states, they are very hyper vigilant about what's going on political wise. I'm not saying not, but up here, just because more people just act open and free to express themselves, just feels like a bigger community because there's just more a visual of seeing it out in public in the day-to-day life. You see people being their unapologetic self, but without the fear, and it's amazing to see.
How long ago was it that you left the red state? How long have you been in the blue state now?
It has been just shy over 2 years. We moved July of 23.
Oh
So, yeah, it found a, I said, through with Bob was able to find a way to get out of, I was like, I got out of Texas. That's a hellscape. And I'm not just talking about the temperature. But helping us get out of there and move, it was a lot. I mean, it was stressful, don't get me wrong, but I felt like it was almost effortless. Like the universe was trying to make sure that this happened. It was where we needed to be. So everything just kind of fell in the right place. We, found a rent house, stayed there for a couple of years, and now we're homeowners again.
Yay. Now you had mentioned earlier that there was that sense of relief, that sense of like, I don't have to, worry about who's listening. We hear this all the time when people either go to a blue state or to even another country, that those trauma responses that they were having, like, was I holding someone's hand? Like, is that an issue? Did I mention, that we went to this place or that place? That they're no longer having to be guarded about even their conversations.
Yeah.
But like you, that looking over that shoulder, that they forgot they don't have to do that anymore. So we hear that all the time, and it's kind of nice to hear.
It's nice to hear and wonderful to feel that you can be affectionate, just like any other couple that you would see anywhere else, and no one's casting dirty glances. There's no nasty remarks. There's nothing like that. Not saying that they don't exist in those states. Don't get me wrong; they're everywhere. Unfortunately, that's just that's just life. But they are far outnumbered, and that's the important part. The bigotry, the hatred, it hits a lot of brick walls in a lot of places. So they're met with more love, acceptance, and people are just like, no, your hatred has no place here. You can just
and that's important, that community support.
Yes.
Or we're not going to allow this person to be othered. We're not going to allow this person to be shunned. And I agree with you that in the red states, or the ones I've been in, I don't think that I have that support. I would have maybe one or two people, not the whole community, say this is wrong. Um, yeah, I've got a boyfriend now, and he has a disability. He walks with a cane. I hold his hand, his other hand, because in part I can feel from his walk how he's doing. You know, am I going too
Right.
fast? Am I pacing? Is it what? But the other thing is, we're holding hands almost every time we walk.
Right.
Nobody bats an eye. Nobody bats an eye. I can tell you in both of my relationships when I was in Texas, we never held hands in public. We barely, if ever, smooched each other. You know, if we're going separate ways in our cars, we'd like get a little tiny peck. Never an embrace because you didn't know who was there and who's armed and who's going to be pissed off and what's going to happen. The level of weight that we carry trying to edit ourselves and the degradation that we put ourselves through for that edit, like, oh, I'm bad because I should, you know, is so heavy that sometimes when I was trying to date people, it felt like I was trauma dumping on them to explain what I went through.
Yeah.
And when I had people who had lived in Dallas visit me, and we sat down together for 2 hours, and they've now gotten out to a great place in New England, and we had the shortcut language. We knew without having to re-explain all the weight we carried and all the things that we knew intuitively the I keep using the word trauma, but the what
Trauma.
we the language of what we lived through. And it was just kind of a relief to meet somebody else who'd gone through it.
Yeah. That I will say, like being in a blue state versus red state, when you start talking about the kind of experiences like that, you don't really hear it very often. It is having to explain like a whole nother world. Trying to explain Texas to someone in another state is they're just kind of like, so is it a desert wasteland where everyone's just running on highways and shooting? I'm like, yeah, pretty much. Throwing some Proud Boys walking the street, and that's Texas. Um,
Somebody dropped the lid of there is a trash dumpster that, you know, the trash goes in here. And somebody dropped the lid and it made a loud bang. And my first thought was gunshot.
yeah,
My first thought, and I had to explain on New Year's Day, I had to ask my neighbors on New Year's Eve and on 4th of July, is it going to be fireworks or is it going to be gunshots? And they looked at me like, why on earth would it be gunshots? Well, because in Dallas, in Texas, they go out and for,
fire off the air.
yeah. And those
Or
just magically don't come back down. No, of course they come back. So I asked the question and they looked at me like I was speaking, you know, some horror. Why on earth would it be gunshots? I'm like, because that's what we lived with.
You hear gunshots at night, and you're just like, it's too common of an occurrence. Um, Actually, was it, in Texas, there was that incident was in Allen, at the mall. Same day. This ought to tell you how people get desensitized to it so quickly in Texas, how easy it is to get to it. That was at a mall. Later that day, we went to just a different mall. It was just another day.
Explain so that people listening understand what that was.
So, and it was Allen Park Mall. There was an active shooter, and I think he ended up taking down 7 people, I believe it was, that day, that morning. That was that, like, right when it opened. And then just later that day, I want to say maybe 4 or 5 o'clock, we went to Frisco. You would think that just that morning, seeing on the news helicopter footage, seeing SWAT and local police informants and people crying, you would think, oh my gosh, you just want to stay indoors all day. And it's like, that's just another day in Texas. Something happened. We literally just went to a similar building, just in a different part. It's maybe 25 minutes away. We're like, okay, it's just another day. That's how bad it gets. And a lot of people don't think about it, because I mean, let's face it, most people watch local news. They don't really watch national coverage, and a lot of stuff that happens in Texas doesn't make national coverage. The only thing that did was Uvalde. That was
Mhm.
So one thing that's different when I watch the local news,
hmm,
it's not the shooting of the day. Every day, Channel 8 News, Dallas, Texas, the shooting of the day, and who got shot and who died and who they're looking for. We
it's
don't
as
have the
common.
shooting of the day,
It's as common as the weather report.
right?
Yes.
I just turn on the news and I expect the first story to be that, and it's not, and you're kind of surprised. Oh, they don't live with that here.
We know.
So I think maybe what I for me and maybe for you, it's the things we don't realize we're living under that once we move away, you're like, oh, that's different.
Yeah, I lived there for 34 years. That was what I knew. And then
Yeah.
2 years, in just 2 year time, it's like, where was I living?
Yeah.
Like the stress of chaos. Like I was so used to absolute chaos, I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize how big this ocean of chaos was in that one area until I was able to get out of it.
Yeah, one of the best examples we spoke to Cassie. I bring up Cassie all the time on these podcasts because her story is so compelling. But she left Texas and went to Uruguay with her kids and her husband. And, you know, when one of their new friends asked their children, what do they miss about school in America? Her son said, "Well, I tell you what I don't miss. I don't miss active shooting drills." And she said, and to hear her tell the story, you're like, oh my God. But she says, I never asked them about that. We never had a discussion. She says, I knew they probably had active shooting drills, but we never talked about it. But that's the thing that comes to mind of how different school is from going there in the United States to, Uruguay. So that was one of the big things. And she also pointed out that, she still had some of those trauma responses, like, they were at a park and those kids had some little poppers they throw on the ground that make little bang noises. And she's thinking guns, and she's the only one in the entire park that's like doing like this and getting down, and it takes a while to get past looking over your shoulder and worrying about what's happening next. And for me, and I'm sure Bob's the same, when I walk into a restaurant, I know where the exits are. I never, unless I'm with people I trust, my back is never to the door.
That part.
Yeah,
That
but
part.
and I will say I've had situations where I'm like, yeah, I'm not. I take that position first so I can see everything. But there's been times me and a friend or two like we both want that see, we both want that position to see everything. Um, but to hear people who don't, it's like, what do you mean you look for that? What do you mean you know where the exits are? I do. I I pay attention to that, and it's so it, and that's when people kind of think we sound crazy. I mean, we were at the Move Broadcon in May talking to people from other countries, like their eyes were huge, talking to us about all the things that come to our mind and what we think about and the things we look for every day just to make sure we're safe. And they're like, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I will say I still haven't gotten rid of that habit. I still sit with my eyes on entry and exit ways. I don't think I'll ever get rid of that. That's just been me. Uh, but yeah, I mean, also there's just in terms of I start you got me thinking about everything that I dealt with in Texas. I was like, when you go have pride in Texas, you have to have almost an army standing around just to make sure no one starts anything. All the entryways have all these religious people who have never, to me, never read a Bible.
Yeah.
Because like Jesus preaches love, not hate. You go to a blue state. What was it? We went to a pride event in the beginning of August, and one guy with a megaphone, and he was drowned out.
So I ran Carrollton Pride event for 3 years.
Yep.
First year we had 600 people. Next year we had 1,200 people, and then the year after that, I think with some rain, we had only 800 people. Anyway, we designed the layout so that we had sacrifice cars. So if somebody was going to drive into us, they had to plow through my car and Leslie's car and Rhonda's car first. We had the police there. We paid for extra police protection. And I was talking to the policewoman there and asking her questions about our setup. And she said, well, you've done something good and something wrong. You are utilizing the parking lot, but next year, don't let people drive up and drop off their handicap person. That's when they're going to get you. And I'll never forget, she says, engine blocks and tires stop bullets. Make them walk in further. And I just froze because I'm halfway in the middle of this 4-hour event, realizing I probably have made everybody be at risk because I haven't thought like somebody who would carry that off enough to protect them. And I'm just ashen because I'm worried about, and we did have in the Frisco event and the Plano event, they show up with their weapons on their back and they're just looking at you, and they want you to wink at them the wrong, say something to make them feel threatened so they can do this. And when they couldn't get into the Plano event, they pulled out their long lens cameras and doxed everybody in the event. Everybody on my staff who was there is in some book of people they don't like because they're going to get us documented. And it's when I tell people that, they look at me like, what movie are you quoting?
I I know you really wish you're like, oh, it was a Steven Spielberg blockbuster hit. I mean, I know my photos out there. I know my a couple of mine are out there. Now I said because and the event that I know that was taken at was in Denton at the university
Was
because
it a Pride event?
it was a protest with the kids because I can't remember what exactly. Yeah, it was LGBT QIA rights, but there's a bunch of guys. They had the GoPros on their chest and everything going around. There's this really tall, huge dude. He was going around so he could get right in your face, and he was trying to challenge you on everything, trying to get you to arguments so you could maybe slip up and say something that they could edit later. Um, but no, I know he got right in my face, and I was like, dude, you need to back up. And the beauty of it is, one of the things that I learned is if you're seeing guys like that, grab your phone and just start playing Disney music.
Anything copyright protected.
Anything protected by Disney, because as soon if they try to play anything with audio from any of those events, Disney goes after them almost immediately because that is copyrighted. So that is my tip to anybody who is still in a red state. Have a playlist of Disney songs just in case. Under the Sea is wonderful to sing and makes everything they do useless.
The fact that we have to think at that level.
I mean, yeah, what you were just describing is like, yeah, you have to basically be a tactician just to hold an event. You have to be like you're in an active war zone to hold an event so people can go and see some local businesses and some food vendors. Local business movement, that is quote unquote the threat to America today. Just because they have a rainbow flag in front of it. That's
and yes. And as the organizer, and Leslie worked every moment of those with me, Leslie and Rhonda and Kim and everybody. And I just had this sinking moment of like, crap. Even with what I planned out, I wasn't enough. So it really just it's the rust on your life that you deal with this level of vitriol and hate coming at you, that you're like, when you escape it even for a bit, you're like, wow, people don't live with this all the time. And that's the message I want people who watch this podcast maybe to get is, give it a try.
I can honestly say, after over 30 years in Texas and now living here for a little over 2 years, my health has actually increased. It has gotten significantly better. So let me tell you, stress is the silent killer. And living with stress in a red state, day in and day out, not knowing what the next day is going to follow, especially with Texas, when you have people like Abbott and Paxton, who basically, I mean, let's face it, they just want us gone. They just want all of them gone. They want illegal, throw them in jail, ship them out. I don't care. They just don't. Yeah, living with that type of or having that mentality of what are they going to do tomorrow go away, and you're like, I'm just more worried at a national level now, not my own. Is my neighbor going to try and turn me in? Kind of deal. It does wonders for you. You don't have that weight. You don't have that stress. You can breathe. That's the best one. You can breathe. I finally started breathing after over 30 years. Now, for the past years, I have been breathing.
Wow.
I've been living. Been great with my job. Family life's been great. Made new friends. Let me tell you, it's not, if you're worried about finding people in another state, community's there. You'll find it.
Yeah.
I found it.
Yeah.
Part of mine was in a dive bar too, but
Sometimes those are the best places.
oh my gosh, it was. I mean, going into a little dive bar and just saying, hey, I just moved here actually, so I figured y'all's place looked, interesting. Honestly, let's face it, cheap drinks. But the bartender, the event planner, and one of the cooks actually just like they all walked up and hugged me and said, "Welcome to the neighborhood. Like, we're glad you moved. Like, you're from Texas. We're so glad you're here. We're so glad you moved." And like, this is literally their first time meeting me. They have no, this is not an interaction that we like had at a grocery store and they invited me there. I just found it on Google, walked in, and it was glad you're here. Glad you got away. Because people in the blue states, they're watching, they're listening. They don't understand the scope of it. They don't know like stuff like, what we've experienced. They've heard of it, but when we start telling the stories, then it's, you know, Stephen King's newest hit.
I think something you just said triggered a thought with me. The people in the blue states, I don't think used to get it. And because I've tried explaining to people everything that we're seeing nationally percolated in Texas for years. Okay. So some people are just now being faced with it on a national level now that we've had 2 administrations of absolute craziness. But it generated from Texas the night Ann Richards lost the election. The night that, and by the way, that was the last time a statewide Democrat was ever elected in Texas. When she lost, the lieutenant governor was a Democrat. That's the last, and that was 1996, I believe.
Yeah.
Double check me. We have not had a statewide Democrat elected in a gerrymandered red state since 96. So the idea that we're going to hold on to the blue wave is coming to take it back. What blue wave? If you go to, and I'm stealing this metaphor from a gentleman who runs a different podcast. Um, if you go to a restaurant and you have crappy service and you get sick on the food, when somebody tells you, well, you have to keep going to that restaurant and eating, how will it get any better if you stop going there? The idea that we have to live in a red state and keep voting there, hopefully someday you'll get your civil rights and be treated as a human being, is bogus. Get up, go to a different restaurant, go to a different place where you are appreciated, pay your taxes there. We don't have to keep going to the same restaurant where we get sick all the time because somebody in a blue state has this mentality that, well, if you leave, it'll never change. You're in a blue state. I had a gentleman tell me that if I wanted civil rights to be a LGBTQ civil rights to be an important thing, I should make an appointment with my congressperson and sit down and explain who I am and that my rights are important. He's in Nancy Pelosi's district. He could do that. Beth Van Dyne does not give a crap about me and my civil rights.
No, that is very selective caring under red, and by that I mean themselves. Let's be honest here. It is only for themselves. It is self-interest central on that. Because I mean, even when we just started discussing the like, where would we even move? We would talk to some people, and even with the group that you and I are part of, Bob, there was quite a few people who were starting to give me issues because like, oh, we're gonna leave. Like, oh, it's not that bad. What are you talking about? I'm like, I want to live in your bubble. I would love to live this carefree because unfortunately for me, my eyes are open and I'm paying attention to what's going on around me. And like, oh, you're gonna regret it. You're gonna move and things won't be like you said. And here I am 2 years later going, huh, I'm seeing some massive regret about you not leaving. Oh, you're living in a hellscape. Cool. Yeah, I see that. It's not all gonna go away. Especially like
No.
right now, we got the First Amendment under attack in this country. And you're gonna
And
tell me everything's gonna be okay?
what people, when they tell you that, I was told, well, moving is expensive and you won't like it there and it's a lot different and those people are holding you into their safe space because if
Mhm.
you exceed their safe space, they won't know what to do with their lack of decision. I was also confronted in one evening, especially with somebody who was telling me I was fear mongering. I was just trying to gin up business and listings, and how dare. And I'm looking back, going, and gay marriage would never be affected, and you're just being hyperbolic, and how dare you? And I just smiled and said thank you. And now I wish I could go back 3, 4, 5 years later and tell them off because I wish somebody could show me on the graph where I'm wrong. Show me on the graph where I'm wrong.
No, there is there's that sense of if I don't think about it, it won't happen. It's not also there's that idea of it's not gonna happen to me. I love that mentality. It's not gonna happen to me. Um, and that's really prevalent, especially because one of the I guess the biggest group of people that I've had an issue with is the LGBTers. There were those same people. We had some of those in our group, and we butted heads because they were like, "Well, if we give them the tea, let them have that, they won't come after us." I'm like, "They'll go for them first, and
And
then
they
they'll come
are.
for you."
And they are going for them first. We already see that,
Yeah,
and they also then there's that other thing. They want to guilt you. Well, how are you going to make change if you don't if you leave? How are you
it,
going? And Bob and we've been around a long time. Like we have seen how quote being an activist can drain your life and take control. And uh, we don't we understand that. Hey, some people, and I'm one of those people. Listen, I've been through all this before, and we're going backwards. I've done my part. You can't get pissed if I decide, hey, I'm out. I've done I did my part. Pass the baton if they want to move forward. In the meantime, while I'm here, I'm going to vote. I will. Hell, I'll probably still march and do other shit too. But at the same time, you are not going to make me feel guilty if I decide it's time for me to go. It and I am sorry that I and listen to have that opportunity and that privilege to actually pick up and go somewhere. I understand that, but at the same time, you're not going to guilt me into like, oh, you should stay and fight. I did, and we're going backwards.
Yeah.
yeah. The look if it was as simple as well, if we vote blue, we'll eventually turn it over. I love I love the optimism. Love the optimism. Love the idea of that happening. The likelihood of it, though, that's where my my attention's going to go. What is the likelihood? And when you have, so what you said about earlier, gerrymandering. Let's face it, they have a lot of these states rigged in their favor. Doesn't matter. Like if you look at the electoral map of just Texas, overall when they zoom out, look at the whole United States, yeah, it's red. But when you zoom in, Dallas, Houston, Austin,
San Antonio.
San Antonio, those are blue dots within it. And that's because those are the areas where you have multiple cultures combining into one. Those are the melting pots. That's to me like when you find the blue spots inside of the red state, that's where they say America is the melting pot. Like, yeah, no, those are the spots in America that they
By
are.
the way, those spots are also our safe areas.
They are
That,
safe areas.
that's where we feel the safest.
So if you're living in Dallas and if you're living in Houston and Austin, where you don't have as much to worry about, and per se as into public, being in the public. Oh yeah, that's wonderful. I'm from Northeast Texas. I am from God's country. That is where, I mean, I grew up with F slur, N slur, like that's the type of area that it is. It is where, you know, there was a kid in my class. Now this is again in the 90s. Kid was just like, yeah, father was a pastor, and basically and just looked at me one day and said, yeah, I'm really tired about hearing all these queer people. Government should deal with them. Nothing an underground bunker and a bullet wouldn't take care of. And I am just like, what? Now, again, I'm not out at this point. I'm still trying to figure out what I am. But we're like 11, 12 years old.
I
And
grew up with
that's
those
the,
kinds of conversations. I grew up in North Texas with those kind of conversations. And that, I came of age in the 80s and early 90s when, the AIDS crisis was a huge thing. And having like my Boy Scout troop leader who was married to my cousin and their son was, we grew up together, went to high school, like we graduated high school together. To have him talk about people about gay people and people with AIDS and the way he did. And he was also a racist. Like he knew there was a race war a coming and he was collecting the guns and ammo for it his entire life. So you grow up with that, like that's a mindset, and I never understood it. My mother was always constantly reminding me that this is where we're at. The rest of the world is not like this. Like it's just so you know, what this is not how it is everywhere. And at that time, she had no idea I was gay, but at the same time, she was trying constantly reminding me, is like, I that this type of thing is not everywhere. This is
not
just where we're
everybody's
at now.
like this. You're okay. Don't worry, not everyone's this hateful. No, yeah, my dad was like that. Also, my dad knew no stranger. Uh, he could start a couple of hour conversation with anybody he ever met. He didn't care as long as you thought you were a good person. Okay,
Hmm.
that's all that mattered to him. And that's what I've tried to model in my own life. Is doesn't matter who or what, just as long as you're a good person. Um, but yeah, all these different things that we just talked about, like that is life in a red state. Not many people like a lot of this is just something we deal with a day to day. We don't really think about it too much. It's just background noise. It's the current everyday, but until you get out of it, you are not going to realize it. I get that it's scary when you move to somewhere else. When you uplift your entire, again, over 30 years in Texas, I uplifted my entire life, thousands of miles away from home that are what I knew of to be home. I found a new one.
Hmm.
It's not where you're born. It's where you are and who you have with you. That's home. So that's the first thing I would ever say is it was that expression, home is where the heart is. It is true. It really is.
Now, most people that we talk to, there was a moment where they like, okay, this is enough.
Yeah.
What was that moment for you?
Proud Boys at drag shows. Just going
Mhm.
to, I can tell you, Buzz Brews in Dallas, the 24
Mhm.
hour diner where it's half restaurant, half bar. They were holding drag show there. And on one side of the street was people trying to protect the drag queen. On the other side of the street was wait, it's going to be mean there. It was a bunch of wimps wearing masks, can't cover the face, doing 88 salutes, um,
Yeah.
and trying to intimidate a whole bunch of queer people. And then they eventually kind of scared off when the queer people started to outnumber them. Um, and they realized that their fear tactics weren't going to work, which it's great in that moment, but we can't be at Buzz Brews every single day. We can't be on Cedar Springs every single day. It it was just that like I don't want to do this. I'm tired of this. I'm putting a bounty out on trans kids. There's people in our group who I know that there were parents, there were trans kids, and they were absolutely terrified, not just for their child's safety, but for the fact that someone could call in a tip line just for money and now their child's being taken away from them, sent into CPS, into a system that's going to abuse them, all because the parents are just like, huh, I'm trying to do the best for my kid and make sure that they stay alive. Because let's face it, trans kids have one of the highest suicide rates in America. It's horrible, and it's
We've talked to a lot of those parents, like that they just like, this is my child, and that they saw no other option. Yeah, and what was it, Bob, you say when things like this happens, people, we lose property, we lose money. What is it?
When a group of people are forced to migrate, and right now we're not forced, but some of us are choosing to migrate early. When it gets to be too hot and everyone runs for the exits, people lose property, they lose wealth, and they lose their lives. Okay, if you look at any migration that's happened at this level, those are the stages. And I quote Toni Morrison, who says the final solution was not their first solution. Excuse me. When we look at history, which I get in trouble sometimes for looking at history, but when we look at the history of the world and we see that they're passing these little ordinances and little laws, and there's some of them not so little, these are the warning shots, making trans people classified as an illness, making gay people recriminalized, taking back our marriage, doing these things that move us more into the outside and the otherness of it, is the stepping stones towards where this ends. And I've always told folks, don't be on the last train out of Paris. Don't wait until everyone is crowding the borders, because let me speak as a real estate agent right now. If you are selling a home, let's say that the water gets too hot and everybody's like leaving a red state. If you see Steve and David on a title and you're the buyer's agent, are you going to bid as much knowing they're kind of over a barrel and they need to get out? If you see Michael on a deed and Michelle is selling the house and it's a dead name for a trans person, are you going to try to work a deal because you know that person is kind of probably scared, and you're going to lose the value of your home if they know you're a distressed seller. And that applies to just being upside down in your mortgage, or maybe don't tell anybody I've got an illness, or I'm retiring or whatever, because I don't want them to take advantage of me. The reason the seller is selling may not be pertinent, may not be something the buyer needs to know, because it can put the seller at a disadvantage. But when the names on the deeds are clearly two women's names, it can set this up, or two men's names, or a dead name. When you get to that level, is waiting to the last minute worth that for you? And then you have the people who choose to stay the whole way, and that's their choice, and we honor that choice. But with the LGBTQ World Map and the Flee Red States Project, we want to at least educate people on places they can go to get out if they want to.
you got to have a backup plan. If you don't have a backup plan, then that I would say that's just poor planning.
Yeah.
And as you were saying about like the little stepping stones, it is, because the sense that I got when you're talking to other queer people, who are like, oh, it's not gonna be that bad, is the idea is it's gonna be like Red Dawn. EMPs are gonna, take out the electrical grid, and we're just gonna see foot soldiers, moving through the streets. Like, it's gonna be like, that's how big it's supposed to hit when they're really coming for us. And it's like, no, that's not how it is. They're gonna test the waters. They're going to see how far they can go. And once they get a little bit of they move a couple of inches, now they've got a foothold a couple of inches, and they're going to keep doing it. That's laying their groundwork. Now they got a strong foundation to build up more against us. They don't come at you screaming, we're coming for you. They move silently.
And by the way, Texas and Florida are the testing grounds.
Yeah.
That's where they test
Tennessee.
it. In Tennessee, yeah.
Yeah. Because there was one of the conversations we had before we moved. It's like, have you noticed that whenever Texas does something, Florida does it, and then Tennessee eventual, and then just name the other state, the other two will follow suit. It's just like, how far can we go? And So we got, the de-education of America happening in Florida. Um, thank you, DeSantis. We have basically queer erasure going on in Texas. That's their main cue. Now, Tennessee is like, how do we find the balance to make sure people don't actually know what we're doing? How can we innocuously slip this into lawmaking so when we say it, we're not actually saying it? And it's sad that you think, like, for me, it's like I have to go watch all these videos and then I have to look up, like, what are they actually saying here? Because why is this even a priority right now? And then you start seeing the ramifications of it. There was actually, there was an election. And if you read the wording of it, it sounds like, oh, well, of course I want to vote for that. That sounds like something that would be in betterment for our community. But the reality of it was it was four options that all ended up just funding the police department. But none of it said police department. But if you
Right.
looked up to see what part of that organization was, what that was a part of, it was the police department. So for four different ways, you just voted yes, and you had no idea what it was.
By the way, a really good example of that is they're trying to pass this new law, and it's voter ID, where the name on your ID needs to match the name on your birth certificate.
Yep.
Well, that sounds fair until you're someone who got married and took your spouse's last name, or maybe you were adopted, or you did any kind of name change. By the way, JD Vance would not be allowed to vote because he's changed his name 3 times. Just
Uh,
saying. He's legally changed his names 3 times, but they're like, well, it should match. Well, you have this argument. Well, it should match your birth certificate. No, because you change your name, and the only and that, but that's their way to get women away from voting. That's a way to take a woman's right to vote. And any LGBT people who's hyphenated their name, you won't be able to vote.
trans,
Yeah,
I think
dead
trans
naming
law.
trend. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so it's one of those things where they make it sound like, hey, this is just to make sure people who are voting are who they say they
Protecting
are.
you.
Yeah, we're protecting votes in America.
Well,
No,
because they did, then they'll claim that there were so many votes stolen and blah blah blah. And I don't want to. That's not what this
yeah.
podcast. I don't want to dive into
I'm
this.
sorry, no.
No, 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 because we could just
I
sit here
know.
all day with this. The one
Unfortunately,
thing Paul touched on, and it worries me, is that there will be a trigger point, and no pun in the use of the word trigger. There will be a moment, and I think we saw this recently, and I don't want to bring up the recent events in this, but where the immediate blame was shifted to the trans community and the gay community, and without any evidence or merit, the scapegoating happened. That will continue to if somebody stubs their toe, it will be because of a trans gay person until that catches and there is the conflagration that they're wanting. So if you're thinking about staying in a red state, just think about all of this before you decide. And as Paul said, and we've said before, have a plan B. Have your, I don't want to say have your bag packed, but have your bag packed. Have something
huh.
waiting
No,
and be
have a
ready.
bug out bag. Have a bug out bag. You even before all this went down, I always had a bug out bag.
Yeah,
It's just good to have, period.
yeah.
But no, have a bug out bag. And that's
And
right.
on that note, the idea that you can get out and have a place that's better for you is what we're really trying to give people.
It really is like, yeah, we can sit here and talk, like, oh, the hellscape that is a red state all day long. We could probably make this into a year-long episode. But the reality of it is, from my experience, I should say, maybe the reality of my experience is as scary as it was, as arduous as it was. I'm not gonna say it was easy. Selling a house is not easy. um, but through all of it, if I could go back, would I do it all over again? Instantaneously, yes, I would. Just for the sense of security that I have, that heaviness off my shoulders, being able to breathe, being able to say, I'm queer. And it's just like, I'll see there's a lot more. Oh, me too. Like there, for instance, like, gosh, what is it? Like grocery stores, the workers, the people who are there. There's so much more representation in those stores. There are so many more people with their pronouns on their badges.
Mm-hmm.
And like the closest I would say in Texas you got that was Target, maybe. And that's before, they went all,
Yeah.
we're taking it back. Because we got scared. Doesn't matter here. They're like, here's my pronouns. You can choose to respect them or not, but I'm gonna wear them. And the company, they're like, no, we encourage it. Even I will say, I did love the fact that even up here in my company, we started putting pronouns on emails and everything. So everybody knows within the company, like, oh, that's someone safe you can talk to.
You know, and they're also trying to pass laws, and this is one floating in Texas that um, having those pronouns, I'm sorry, misgendering somebody because that's not their what they were at birth by calling someone male that's that was born male but they're now female type of thing that would this would become illegal type of thing. My name is Leslie. In an email, nobody knows what my gender is. They assume it's female. Do you know how often I am misgendered? And I listen, I don't care, and that it doesn't come from a disrespectful place. It's just that they don't know,
Yep.
But they're literally trying to make this a law where it would be against the law to use your pronouns. And I'm like, do you know how many pronouns there really are? Do you really understand what a pronoun is? Number one, do you know what a pronoun is?
The second you say I, you've broken the law. No, but it's that is the mentality. That is the behavior. That is where you're at now. Again, like you said, if what Bobby said, if people want to stay there, they want to fight there. More power to you. I'm not gonna sit there and go like, oh, that's your fight, not mine. If there's a way I can support you, then I'm going to.
Yeah.
Because regardless if you want to stay there or not, you're still part of my community. Allyship are actually in the community. You're still a part of it. And by that I mean as long as you are the part of the full alphabet, not leave off some letters.
Right.
You, I will leave behind. But it doesn't necessarily have to be, and not everyone's meant for the front lines.
Yeah.
Not everybody is. Some people work better behind the scenes. Some people work better far away. There's different roles. There's different ways. You just gotta talk, find out, and figure out what works best for you. And that's really what we can say. The only reason why we do stuff like Flee Red States is because we see it, we understand it, we paid attention in history class.
Mm-hmm. We
Um,
know where this goes.
we know where it goes, and um, you know, I guess there's no real delicate way to put this. We started building camps in Florida already.
Yes.
They made them tear them down, or making them tear them down, but they were building them. It's not something that we can dance around lightly. It's not something we can just ignore. It's something. It's in our reality living here. We are dealing with a lot of areas that just don't care.
Yeah.
And as much as you want to sit there and fight, you gotta also take care of yourself because you ain't, you're not gonna do anybody any good if you're not here anymore.
Right.
Right.
So
So
I'm going to wrap up with this thought.
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Leslie.
No, that's like you've been so in 2 years you're healthier.
Yep,
I'm guessing you're happier.
a whole lot,
You found community,
very large one.
and you highly recommend.
Highly, highly recommend. Do your research, get online, find the resources. Not just, it's great that we have stuff like Flee Red States. Don't get me wrong, that's amazing. But it also it's a huge process, and you gotta do the work yourself too. But you gotta find what works for your family. What is something you can afford? Jobs, community. There's a lot of factors into it. I'm not gonna be like, oh, it's so wonderful, it's just a simple move. No, there's a lot of research you gotta look into it. That's why you can't wait till last minute.
Yeah.
There's not time to do that at last minute. Do it now while you have the time now. Do it now. Have that plan B. And if you've honest and my advice has really been, hey, if you've been waiting to sit there and press the button to go, press the button.
I tell people all the time is like have an escape plan, like, and I mean it, escape. And I refer to it all the time as an escape plan. What is your escape? And we have this conversation all the time. What is your escape plan? Most everyone I know has an escape plan. Those who have yet to escape have an escape plan. And we think of it as an escape plan, not like, oh, I'm going to plan to move somewhere. No, it's an escape plan. It's like, I'm doing this because I feel like this is my only option or my best option. Not because, hey, it'd be cool to live over here. It's not like that.
No. Get your passports. Number one, it takes a while to get, so get the paperwork. It's a couple $100.
Renew early, renew like a year early.
Renew a year early if needed. If needed, get your paperwork in order, and that means wills, everything. I have all my paperwork in order because again, I'm just uncertain on still on some things. Still some things, but I still feel a lot better than where I was. I feel loads happier, but I still have my plans just in case because I can't be like, oh, I'm in a blue state, everything's fine. I can't give the message that's going to be it. You got to stay prepared no matter what. But you can be a lot happier and be prepared. I can give you that.
Right.
But no, always have, no matter what, always have another plan. I have another plan just in case. It's
Okay. I'm just gonna say thank you everyone for watching. If you have questions, write to us. We are at fleeredstates.com, Texas Pride Realty Group. Paul, thank you for being here.
thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and we'll have you back on in another 6 months and see where we're at.
I love it.